Hi, I'm Hannah Jur and I'm the teacher for the small group setting at Armadale Academy. Today I'm just going to tell you a bit about our journey so far, some of the challenges we've faced and also some of our successes. Our journey so far. We opened our small group setting in August 2020 with one full-time teacher and 2 advanced pupil support workers. At that point we only had 2 students allocated and they both had full-time places. We also had an additional 2 students from the school who used the provision but who weren't allocated places. Since our start, we've also had a student use our provision who was EAL, who didn't speak any English and came to join our Armadale community, so we had them in for an intensive time to help them to manage when they went out to the rest of the school. And this year we've had 2 further part-time places allocated to the provision. A key part of our journey so far has been gaining parental trust and getting really good communication channels open with the parents. Having this open communication has made our time so much easier and it's made it so much better for the young people. So as we've set up the provision, we have had a number of successes which we're really pleased about. Our current S2 students who came to us in S1 are now starting to integrate really well into mainstream classes, which is obviously a huge aim of the small group setting, is to allow them to be really contribute to part of their school community. They're also acting as mentors for the new S1s that have come in, which is really good to see them taking some responsibility and ownership as these new people start with us. I really feel that a big success for us is that our students have a really strong sense of belonging within the school community. Although they've got the small group setting as their safe place, they're actually really comfortable and confident moving around the school and really feel like they're a part of the school and a valued part of the school. Another success has been that we have got the parents on board and the parents are really supportive. This has made a huge difference to us in how we're able to support young people, because we're all working together to support the young person in the best way possible, with parents supporting the messages that we're giving the young people at home. A further success is an S4 student we've had. During S3 they were able to bank some qualifications, and this year they're now attending mainstream classes and gaining more qualifications, so they are going to leave with a really good wide range of qualifications, including potentially a Nat 5 English, which is a huge achievement for that young person. Another success has been that students' attendance is really high. We're really pleased with their attendance, and we know that a lot of that is down to them having this safe space in a small group setting where they can come when they're having a day where things aren't going well. Similarly, most of our students report really well on their wellbeing. We do check-ins every month with the wellbeing web and looking at the wellbeing indicators, checking how they're feeling and setting new targets. In general, they're reporting really positively on their wellbeing and feel really supported within the school. The biggest success for me has been the ethos and culture of the group. The young people are really supportive of each other and they feel really comfortable and confident in the small group setting. Similarly, they know they're a valued part of the school community. The small group setting is included in everything in the school, so for example we have a representative on the pupil council who goes to the pupil parliament and gives our opinions and things there. Similarly, they get included in the outdoor learning programme, and anything else that happens in the school they are included in and are part of it. This has been a huge success for them and gives them loads of opportunities that they might not have had if they weren't in a provision within a mainstream school. The final real key success that we've had is that we've built such positive relationships both between the young people and between the young people and staff. That obviously takes some time with young people with ASD, but it's been really worthwhile and valuable to see these relationships grow and flourish, and indeed the young people start to maybe do things they might not have done in the past. For example, talking to people in the hallways, or maybe going along to birthday parties or going out with friends and things like that. It's a huge deal for these young people, and it's something that we're really pleased they've managed to do. In setting up our small group setting, we did also face some challenges. The number one challenge was that it can be quite isolating working within a small group setting. Obviously you're in that room, and at first the young people we had were full-time places, so they were also in the room all the time. We quickly realised it was really important that they needed to be included in the wider school and tried to get them out and doing things within the school community. As a teacher, it can also be quite isolating working within the small group setting, because you're kind of on your own with it and you're in there kind of all day every day. So as my PTC has been really good at making sure I'm included in the wider SFL department, and similarly that the other SFL staff are a bit involved in the small group setting. That's been really positive because it's good for the young people to meet new people, and it encourages them to realise that different teachers have different strengths, they're able to bring different things, and they get excited about having new people coming into the room. The second challenge was creating a curriculum from scratch. We didn't really have anything in place as this was new for Armadale Academy, so we had to create it completely from nothing really. For me, it was really important that we fed into what the other departments were doing and following the curriculum that the S1s and 2s were doing round the school, because if the end goal is for these young people to go to mainstream classes and achieve the qualifications, it's really important they're having similar experiences in their learning in S1 and S2. I wanted it to be that they would be able to phase back into mainstream classes whenever they felt comfortable and confident. So our curriculum is very much based off of what our current S1s and 2s do anyway, but with some adaptations to make it more manageable for our young people. For example, some of them really struggle if they have to write a lot, so we've maybe adapted how we look at certain outcomes and things. We use maybe a lot more technology in some other aspects of the school, and that's been really successful for our young people, but it was definitely a challenge setting that up and making sure we were covering everything we should be, whilst also supporting the young people and giving them time to work on other things that they also need to work on, for example, maybe social skills as well. Originally, when we set up the small group settings, our biggest challenge was Monday mornings. The change in routine from the weekend into the school week was really a challenge. Myself and the PSWs worked really hard with the young people to overcome this. We introduced an extended soft start on a Monday, where they also get some nurture and wellbeing kind of check-in time, and we've also had a look at what subjects we do on a Monday to make sure there's things that the young people are really looking forward to make it easier to do that transition from the weekend to school. Another challenge that we have faced is if there's ever any breaks in routine. So obviously within a mainstream high school, there's often things change, there's things go to cover, things happen at last minute, and that's unavoidable. So we've spent a lot of time working with the young people to help them manage this change, because it can be particularly tricky for young people with ASD to deal with these changes. So we've looked at strategies they can use to cope, but also what they can do if they don't feel comfortable with it. And that seems to have helped, but it is still one of our big challenges in a school, particularly when things like timetables keep changing, teachers obviously come and go, they move up a year and all their subjects change, so we're having to be really mindful of that. The other thing we do that's really important is we try to let the young people know with as much time as possible about any changes that might happen to their school day. So for example, subject choice is happening for our S2s towards the end of February, but we've been talking about it since August. A challenge we faced when the young people first started was breaks and lunchtimes, because there was nowhere that they didn't want to go out to the snacky, to the dining hall area, because it was too loud, which is totally understandable, but it was what to do with them so they didn't feel trapped in the room. So the young people have always had a choice to go to a different quiet room, but for the most part choose to remain in the small group setting, which is absolutely fine. That means that they're in there for breaks and lunch, so we have to staff it for break and lunch, but it's definitely worthwhile as it stops them feeling anxious or from issues happening at break and lunch time, because they're in the place where they're comfortable and calm and they get a chance to switch off. What that did mean is that some of the young people were in the room all day, every day, so we have really worked to incorporate some outdoor learning and time outside with the young people most days of the week to ensure that they're not sitting in the classroom all day, every day. Another challenge that's been a really key challenge for us is the parental and young person's anxiety levels when they're coming up to high school. This is something that the young people coming up to a small group setting in particular have noticed is huge for them. It's a huge deal to move from primary school to high school. So we've done a lot of work around transition to help them with this. We've introduced a successful start initiative for young people who are particularly struggling with transition to get them up to the high school as early as possible. So they've been coming up for 6-week blocks after school, working with PSWs in the Support for Learning department to get them used to coming up here in a routine and doing some little episodes of learning so they can see what it's like, as well as getting a tour of the school and getting comfortable in the surroundings. This has also helped us to start building relationships with the parents earlier, so the parents know what supports are going to be in place for the young people, just to alleviate some of the anxiety that they have around transition. The final challenge that we faced in setting up our small group setting was that transition between the small group setting and mainstream classes. Obviously in the small group setting we can kind of control the surroundings, we can make it nice and calm, we can ensure there's no triggers for young people, but that can be really tricky to do in the mainstream classes. So the transition between them has been hard, and it's for the young people, it's taken a long time for them to feel comfortable doing that, although our S2s now are really quite successful in their mainstream classes. One of the key ways of making this successful has been lots of communication with the class teacher in regards to the young person's needs, making sure that they are supported in that class. but also similarly the class teacher reporting back to me with what things the young people need a bit more support with or a bit more time spent on, and then we'll do that during their time in the small group setting. So that kind of joined up, linked up approach has worked really well for our young people, because they know they're supported, but they also know if they're struggling they can come back to the small group setting and do a bit more on it at a later date. Just to tell you a bit more about our small group setting, I asked our young people to tell me about it and why they liked it or didn't like it, what things they thought were good. Our young people said that there's less people that stress them out in the small group setting. They said it's quiet, there's adults that are helpful and that care, they can do things that they're interested in. One of them said they've learned lots of life skills. They've also said that people listen to them, that they get to do outdoor learning, and that their class has a fridge, a tent and other good stuff. So I think for the young people, the key that they're seeing is that there's people in there that really care about them and know them really well and look after them, and that's something they've highlighted as being really, really important for them. In terms of our parents, I asked them for some feedback as well, and they've talked about how they were really, really worried with the young person, with where the young person started here. But when they were in the small group setting, that was a big relief for them. They knew that he was going to be supported as he'd been in a similar setup at primary, and felt like this would enable him to have access to the small group setting, but also have that benefit of being able to access mainstream classes, especially as he got older and came towards the exam years. They said that they're really pleased because that flexibility has allowed him to access a really wide range of learning and social opportunities, and he's really begun to thrive. And this young person that this parent is talking about, he's now attending most of his mainstream classes, which, considering he was a full-time member of the small group setting originally, is huge, although he does still need support and scaffolding to manage that, and that's something that the parent and myself work really well together to ensure can happen. Another parent explained how basically it's supported our young person to be much more independent. He's attending some classes, but he can do so safely and with peace of mind knowing that he can return to the small group setting after, or that a member of staff from the small group setting might be with him in those classes. Similarly, she explained how the communication with the staff in the small group setting has been really helpful. We speak to most of the parents, if not daily, at least a few times a week. This means that she's able to know what's going on in his day, because otherwise he wouldn't tell her, and she's then able to support us in what he's doing in school, which is really, really helpful. She said here that the main thing that she finds most beneficial about small group setting is that each child is treated as an individual and supported to reach their full potential. I think that's a real key for us, is that we do treat every young person differently. There's no one size fits all approach, but that has worked well for us in just making sure that each young person is able to work on things that are their strengths, but also that we'll support them to deal with any development needs that they have. So to sum up, our small group setting is obviously in its really early years and has still got a lot of development to go, but we have had a lot of success just in terms of making sure our young people really feel as part of a school community, they feel supported, their parents feel like we're communicating really well with them, and the young people are thriving. For me, moving forward, we've definitely still got a way to go with developing the curriculum further as these young people move up through the school. We also, I think, need to look at how we work with the young people in part-time places better, to get that really good support network around them in the same way that the young people with full-time places have. For me, one of the huge successes has been the consistency of staff as well. We've got 2 brilliant advanced pupil support workers who work in the small group setting, and they have been absolutely brilliant, and I think the staff you have in the small group setting can just make all the difference to it being a really successful place. Finally, it's important to say we love visitors in our small group setting at Armadale, so if anybody ever wanted to come and visit, please do let us know. We really like having people come in, and the young people love to show people around their room and their space and show you what they've been up to. Thank you for listening today, and I hope this has been informative in what we do at Armadale. As I say, it's not that this is a one-size-fits-all approach, it's not that ours is perfect, we've definitely still got things to do, but it's good to share our successes and what's worked for us, because hopefully it might work for you guys too. Thank you.